Hi, I'm Shane with etrailer.com. Today I'm going to walk you through how to install Redarc Tow Pro Elite brake controller on your 2020 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. Adding a brake controller to your vehicle is going to allow you to send brake pressure to your trailer brakes whenever you're pulling a load. The nice thing about this brake controller is how small it is. It's designed to go in a vehicle that has a smaller cabin space. It's going to be a lot different than using your traditional brake controller. It works perfect for a vehicle like this, a Jeep that has a little bit less cabin space than like your typical truck that has a lot more room in it. This is what our brake controller is going to look like once it's installed. You can see it's very small design, makes it very easy to mount in different locations on your dash or even on your center console. The only thing you have to worry about is the back, having room for the back of it behind the dash. The difference is when you have a brake controller like this, which is your typical brake controller, you can see how much room. I'm 6 foot, I have the seat all the way back. This brake controller being mounted here, it can get in the way. Or if I have to mount it over here, there's not a whole lot of places in here that I can mount a brake controller like this. It's going to give me enough room to actually control it. They do work, but again, we're in a small space. This makes it very difficult. Everything that this does, this can do, just by using this small button. With this brake controller, you're going to have two different modes. You're going to have a proportional mode, which is going to match the brake pressure you are applying in the vehicle. And you're going to have a user mode, which means whatever you have the dial set at, whatever number that is, it's going to automatically apply that amount of pressure to the brakes on the trailer. Say if you're pulling the trailer off-road or something and you need a little bit different braking going to the trailer than from the vehicle. It's going to allow you to make that adjustment to send that more power or more of that power back to that trailer, so that you're stopping the trailer or the trailer's stopping itself. We're not relying on the vehicle to slow and stop both. When you do proportional mode and you have the dial set at whatever number that is, maybe you have a heavy load on there, but you're on a flat ground. When you apply the brakes, what it's going to do, it's going to start out at that same amount of pressure, sending that same amount of pressure to the brakes on the trailer, but that pressure is going to increase to the amount of pressure you have set on the dial. So that's the difference between being proportional and user mode. User mode, it's going to automatically put that amount of pressure directly on the brakes on the trailer. Proportional mode, it's going to start out at whatever pressure you're putting on the brakes in the vehicle, and it's going to increase to the amount of pressure you have set on the dial. Now we're in proportional mode. As I mentioned before, with this mode, it's going to send the same amount of pressure you're applying to the brakes in the vehicle to the trailer, and it's going to increase to whatever number you have it set at. So if we watch the light, it's going to go from blue and gradually go up to red. Now if we switch it over to user mode, what we're going to see, we're going to go up to 10 again here. As soon as I touch the brake, it's going to automatically go to red. Instead of increasing, it's going to send that amount of pressure directly to the brakes on the trailer. And I'm barely touching the brake pedal. Now with both modes, you're going to have a manual override. The manual override is a simple press of the button. And what that allows you to do is to apply the brakes on the trailer without applying the brakes in the vehicle. The reason you need something like that is maybe you get into a situation where your trailer starts to sway a little bit. If you apply the brakes in the vehicle while that's swaying, you're not going to stop the swaying on the trailer. It may actually increase the swaying in the trailer. Being able to apply the brakes on the trailer while it's swaying without applying the brakes on the vehicle is going to allow that trailer to come back to center behind the vehicle. Another big difference between the Tow Pro Elite and your traditional brake controller is this type of brake controller. It has to be mounted a certain way. You can't have it, when you mount it on your dash, it can't be turned or at an angle because it won't work correctly. With the Tow Pro Elite, you can mount this anywhere on your dash. The actual control unit itself can be mounted underneath the dash in any orientation because it's going to calibrate itself to whatever direction you have it set at, or whatever direction you have it mounted underneath your dash. So this type of controller makes it very easy to get it in anywhere in your vehicle to make it much easier for you to use over one of these. Now that we've gone over some of the features of the brake controller, let's go ahead and walk you through how to get it installed. To start our installation, we need to find a place to mount our controller. We got to make sure that when we put our plug on, there's going to be enough room behind it, because all this is going to sit back behind the dash somewhere. What we did is we went ahead and removed the panels here on the driver's side of the dash. Lower panel here pops off. You have a screw here and a screw here, pop this off. And then for this side panel, because we're going to mount it right up here, you're going to have a couple screws that run along this side. You're going to have one down here and one right up here. Once you get those out, you can pop this out, look back, and just make sure you don't have anything in the way. So we're going to put it about right here in your kit. You're going to get a little ring. It's going to look like this. We're going to have to drill a hole in the dash. This ring actually is the exact size for this and the LED light to go through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as my template to drill my hole. Put a couple pieces of tape on it, put it in the location where I'm going to drill my hole, and we'll stick it on there. And I'll mark that and start drilling my holes. So I drilled my small hole first, then I drilled the hole right in the center of the ring. Now I'm going to take this ring off and open that hole up to the correct size. You want to make sure you don't damage this ring, because this ring actually goes on the outside once we get our brake controller put in place. Now my smaller hole, I drilled it to the exact size of the template that I was using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go one size up, because it may be a little bit difficult to get the LED light to come through the hole. We're going to have a cable like this. It's going to come with an elbow and a straight side. I'm going to use the straight side in the back. You can use either one. This is going to make it a little bit easier up inside here. The elbow is not going to work. There's a bracket that runs about here straight across, and the elbow hits it. So with this, it'll go straight over the top of it. We can run our wire right over, and it'll come out right over on the inside of our dash right here. It might be easier if you go ahead and connect it first. Now we'll take our controller, put it in through the hole, and make sure you line up the LED light with the top hole. Put your outer ring on. You're going to have a collar like this. Slide it on, and we're going to tighten it into place. You're going to have your knob. And spin this all the way to the left. Line up the 0 with the LED light on the top. Push it into place. What you want to make sure is that you can push that knob like that. Once you get that in, go ahead and put your dash back in place. The center panel, as I mentioned, it just pops off. There's just clips, so just pull it straight back. Where I'm going to mount it is actually on the back of this. I'm going to cut these off, take some very small screws, and then mount it right here. And this wire will plug right back into the back of our unit, and we'll run the other two plugs over to our factory wiring over here on this driver's side kick panel, or up above it actually. This is what it's going to look like when you get it mounted on the back of your panel. Just use some small, very short screws. You want to make sure you only go through this panel, not all the way through the outside. You want to make sure when mounting this, if you decide not to mount it here, you mount it somewhere solid. Don't zip tie it to any factory wire or anything. It needs to sit where it's not, where it won't move around, because it has to calibrate for the brakes. Now we'll take our plug from our controller, plug it into the back of the unit like that. Take this. If you have a factory tow package, there's 2 additional wires that you're going to need. You're going to need this one, which is part number TPH-017, and you're going to need this one. To locate the factory wiring harness, it's going to match the end of this plug. It's going to be right over here against this side, kind of up in here, and it may be taped to some other wiring. I can move some stuff here. We can get a visual of it. You see that plug right there? It's a gray plug, and it'll be open just like that. We're going to take our wiring harness, we're going to match it up on there. Once you get it plugged in, take the other end of your wire, we're going to loop it up and over, just like this. Over our dash, underneath here. Your second plug, you're going to plug it in like this. We'll take our panel, we're going to plug this cable in, coming from our actual controller. We'll plug this one in to the other side. Once you've got all your wiring plugged in to your control unit, go ahead and replace your panel. So before I had it running this way, I was having a problem with my plugs making contact with these 2 bars, my panel not being able to go back in place all the way. So what I did is I just turned it. The big plug is going to be at the bottom. My right angle plug is at the top. And I just put 2 holes right up here. Actually, use one of the existing ones. I had to drill or put a new one in here. And I test fit it like this, and it fits perfectly. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my next 2 screws in down here just to make sure it holds in place, and we can put our panel back in. I can go ahead and show you here. We're going to take this and slide it up, kind of up behind this leather piece here, like that. And we'll just line it up and then pop everything back into place. And it fits in there perfect. We'll go ahead and push our button. See if our LED light comes on. Looks like we're all connected. Now that we have everything hooked up inside the vehicle, we've tested it, we know it works, we're going to hook up to our trailer, get our brake controller calibrated so we can adjust it as needed while we're pulling the trailer with the weight on it. Now to get the unit calibrated, this one has already calibrated, but once you install it, what you're going to see is you're going to see that blue LED light. It's going to flash between blue and green. That means it needs to be calibrated. What you're going to do is you get in the vehicle, hook up to your trailer, you're going to drive around a little bit, and that light will eventually go from blue-green to just blue. Once you have just the blue LED light, that's going to be in proportional mode. What you want to do, if you're going to switch it over to user mode, you simply put your vehicle in park, press on the brake, push the button 3 times within 1 second. It'll change over to green. That switches you over to user mode. And then to switch it back, same process, vehicle in park, press on the brake, push the button 3 times. Once you have it calibrated, you're ready to go. Again, I'm Shane with etrailer.com. That's going to do it for a look at and installation on the Redarc Tow Pro Elite brake controller on our 2020 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited.